Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to another lovely episode of the Wisdom Save podcast. We are back.
Took a little break.
Yeah, a little break that turned into a little bit of a longer break. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of busy life stuff. A lot of, health stuff.
Again. Which is mainly, the reason for all of our breaks is my stupid kidneys.
Yeah.
Got more stones. They're not as bad, but they've been making me feel real shitty.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing is, it's complicated for you because it's preventative measures only go so far. Mm-hmm. Since it's a genetic thing for you.
Yeah, we're learning more about them every single year. Yeah. I get them.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I did everything I could to not get kidney stones this year because last year when we took our last break,
right? Yeah, exactly.
I was in the hospital with kidney stones.
Most of it, yeah.
And they were really, really bad. They were really, really big kidney stones that actually blocked off my kidney. So most of that episode was just pain.
Yeah.
This time I drank a fuckload of water. I've been trying to cut things out of my diet, except for D&D nights. Those are my cheat nights. I can have soda and whatever else.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it's kind of tradition at that point.
Well, also they said that basically I can try and cut stuff out of my diet, but everything I have makes them, and they're also hereditary.
Right.
So I'm not gonna not get them ever.
Yeah, that's the thing, and the problem is that the stones are made of a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. So it's there are certain things you can cut out that will help, but you can't cut out food.
Yeah.
From your diet. So
I'm getting them no matter what. Yeah. I can just try and deal with them.
Right.
Which we did pretty well with. They said they were small enough that I should be able to pass them.
Right.
But when I felt them originally, back in fucking July, which is why we've been taking a break since then.
Because this happened right around Go Fest.
Yeah.
Which I think we also had a similar situation last year.
That's how I always figured I have the kidney stones is Go Fest.
Go Fest.
What was I saying? I drank a bunch of water. I tried to cut down on a bunch of things that really helped make them. I had so much less tea this year.
Mm-hmm. Drinking a lot of high citrus drinks because the citrus supposedly breaks up the calcium deposits that make the majority of stones.
But when I got it...
Drinking citrus like you have scurvy.
Right. But when I got the diagnosis of it, they're you still got a kidney stone. They should be passable. But it was still in my kidney.
Yeah.
So it hadn't dropped yet. So, I've been dealing with on and off pain. Not it hasn't been crazy intense pain, which is weird for a kidney stone for me. Which means I'm probably managing it well.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's been making me feel like this time instead of just straight up gut-wrenching pain, it's been making me feel really nauseous. It's been making me feel really achy. So that's why every time we've gone to are we gonna record? Are we gonna cut the break and start recording? I remember it was the third week we were supposed to take a 2-week break and come back.
Yeah, and that was our original plan. Right.
And you were are we gonna do an episode? And I was nauseous and nasty, and I was laying in bed and didn't want to move.
Yeah.
And it just kind of went from that point where I've got it to a point where I can sit up for a little bit of time now.
Yeah. Well, that's really what it comes down to, right? Is that when we're recording our podcast, we are sitting for a couple of hours at a time. And honestly, a lot of your biggest pain spikes when it comes to kidney stones have been either sitting or sitting in a car, especially.
Right.
So we just weren't in a situation where you were feeling up to sitting up for an extended period of time to record and edit and.
Well, even sometimes I'm still not during D&D last week.
Yeah.
I sat up for 2 hours and I was fine. But I remember we had 2 hours worth of game, and then I started feeling intensely nauseous.
Yeah.
And I, like, wasn't feeling good, and, like, my eyes, like, wanted to shut. I was getting tired and, like, drained and gross.
Yeah. And
I kept running to the bathroom in case I did throw up, because I didn't have my anti-nausea medication on me. And I just, I have another doctor's appointment on Friday, and I'm going to have to just tell her I'm tired of dealing with it. But we're gonna try the podcast for now.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like at the very least, like, you've been kind of holding it down a little bit better. Like, you've been like a little bit more okay with the pain. It's been a little bit more manageable, which is probably due in part to, like, just like the reduced size of everything. But,
right. Well, that and
still not comfy.
I keep trying to like skip my medication. Like my pain medication.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. It's like it's like oxycodone. Like,
well,
I can understand you not wanting to, like, not that that's really ever been a problem for you. You're not. I wouldn't consider you to have an addictive personality.
No, but also, like, when we have to keep calling in for more oxycodone because this problem takes 2 months long,
right?
And they only give you 10 at a time, but you're also always in pain, and so you have to call them back every week to ask for more. And sometimes if you call too soon, they're like, "Oh, are you, like, taking it too fast?"
Yeah.
That I want to try and skip medication, and I've started taking.
Like, are you selling it? Not they ever say that.
No, they think I'm either addicted to it and just taking it for fun, or that I'm selling it, and I'm not, obviously.
Yeah. It probably doesn't help that, like, just because, like, I have a working phone, I'm often the one that calls on your behalf. So I'm sure they're just like, I wonder if he's, like, filching pills from her or some shit.
It's just, I don't want to have a phone. I was thinking...
Yeah, phones are expensive, and you really only use it for the internet anyway.
Like, the less people I can get a hold of me, the better.
Oh, for sure.
Like, yeah, I don't want...
I get that.
Like, I'll eventually get a phone and a phone number and all that garbage.
But, like, it has to be worth it, you know?
It's never going to be. I don't want a phone and a phone number and a way for people to get a hold of me. I mean, it does, like, get to the point where, like, I have to ask other people to do everything for me.
Yeah, which is not a big deal for me, but...
I don't care about having a phone.
I get it.
I'm like, if I'm not in my house, why do I want you to be able to talk to me anyways? But regardless, that's not the point. I've gotten on the... I'll take ibuprofen and Tylenol at the same time.
Yeah, which has been working pretty well.
Which works okay, but I can't feel it as much.
Sure.
Like, the oxycodone, like, kicks me in the head, and I'm, like, in a daze. So when it's, like, wearing off, I'll feel the pain again, and, like, notice that I'm like, oh, when did I take it last? Okay, I should probably take more if I need it. With the ibuprofen and the Tylenol, like, I can still kind of feel the pain through it, to a point where it's bearable, but it's not, like, I feel, like, really gross. And when it wears off, it just kind of, especially if I'm, like, not in intense pain,
right.
I barely notice when it wears off.
Fair
so
enough.
Then the pain can just amp up slowly. It's like the frog in boiling water.
Oh, yeah. That's a good analogy, I think.
Like, I can always feel the pain, it's just lessened. And so as it wears off, the pain just kind of gets a little bit worse until it gets so bad that I should have already taken medication, and I didn't.
Right. Jeez. So that's a little snapshot into what
we've been dealing with and why we took our long break.
Poor Hannah. But, yeah, so we're back. We figured what we would do this time before we kind of, like, and I'm calling it my topic in our kind of, like, back and forth of topics. I figured we'd do something kind of akin to a Roses and Thorns, but just kind of a little bit more freeform. Mm-hmm. We're just going to talk about things that have been on our minds or interesting to us, or that we've, like, done in the past, like, 5 weeks?
Right.
That we've been away? Oh, here go the girls.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously
knowing... recording.
Oh, yeah, they can tell. So that's the thing, too, is they've done almost none of this for the entire time we haven't recorded. It's because we're recording.
It's when they see the microphone. They're like, ooh, it's time to scratch and make mom and dad confused and frustrated.
Pay attention.
We want to be on the show, too.
But, yeah, speaking of my condition, I probably won't. I mean, I have my topics, obviously, but I haven't been up to very much. So my topics are going to be a little more tame, I can only imagine.
Totally fine.
Well, especially because Ken also cares about worldly events, and I don't.
That's true, yeah. I'm kind of like the one who's always on the internet.
You wake up and check the news.
Yeah. I wonder if it's... Because the thing is, like, it's weird. Because I was thinking about this recently. I used to not really do that.
Uh-huh.
I used to just kind of like, if the news was on, it's like I'd watch the news. It was mostly local news. I was like tuned into what was going on in the world around me, but mostly because I was like in school. Like this was back during like high school and college and stuff. Like I knew what was going on in the world because like I just heard about it from people, and teachers and shit like that. And I was always interested in what was going on in the world. Like, I've always had an interest in, like, history and stuff and what is current news events, but just history happening in real time.
Uh-huh.
So I was always interested in that, and but I never, like, went out of my way to go, like, ooh, I gotta sit down and, like, watch the news. But then I feel like late in high school and, like, moving into college, that's when I got into, like, social media. And, like, that was when I first, like, made a Facebook account in my junior year of high school or whatever. And, like, I made a Twitter account in college at some point. And, like, I think that was when, like, slowly but surely, like, once you curate lists of people and you don't have, like, weirdos on your follow list, at that point, like, one of my major news sources became, like, trusted news articles and reputable sources from like my social media.
Right.
And then at that point, when it was as easy as like being at my fingertips, I would always be like, oh shit, I gotta see what's going on in the world today. And it was easy to do it because everyone was fucking talking about it.
Right.
But that does unfortunately, because it is through social media, it does mean that I do spend a decent amount of my morning sometimes wading through absolute garbage to find like, oh, this is what's going on. And it's always like, sometimes you'll find like big stories, but you'll find like a secondhand reaction to it, and then you have to go back and figure out what the heck they're talking about. So a lot of my like early morning is like me waking up and opening up Twitter and then deciphering what the fuck is happening in the world.
Right.
Which as someone who holds a degree in history and political science, it's like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like there's this part of me that's just like, I wish I could just not pay attention to any of this. Because a lot of the state of the world just makes me upset.
Well, that's the thing is, I wake up in the morning. I wake up in the morning and I don't even have that thought of what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is? Bad. Like it always is. Like,
yeah.
like
It's
why...
really always bad.
Like, I know people are like, oh, well, you should, like, watch the news because you need to be informed and yada, yada, yada. Like, the thing is, if it's bad enough, I'll hear about it.
That's true.
And if it's not bad enough, I don't feel like I give a shit. I know it's bad. I don't need to read what's bad today. Like, it's always bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It's weird. That's why I kind of describe it as Stockholm syndrome. It's like, I know that like I'm gonna read the news and I'm gonna be like, well, this is gonna be disappointing, 9 times out of 10, and I'm almost always right. I don't know. Maybe we just not necessarily but maybe I just got like really cynical the older I got. Maybe that's what it is.
No, you're just turning into one of those guys that like looks at the news.
I'm like am I like a news? Am I gonna be a newspaper dad? Am I gonna be
You fucking better be, because if you turn that shit on the TV, I'll take the TV out. I've already cut the phone out. Like I'll cut out the TV.
We're not gonna have a TV.
I mean,
we're gonna have a monitor that plays Netflix on our console.
I mean, that's what we already have.
Cable.
But that's
cable's what I do.
My dad can get the news, and he watches the news all the time. You can get like that's like the only thing you can get without having cable.
You can get the news on YouTube and shit.
Well, that's not. You better be a newspaper dad, because if it's on audibly anywhere near me, I'll throw it away.
You're right.
Like, I'm not interested. Like, I'm really not.
Well, that's why Twitter works out so well.
Yeah.
Not that Twitter is a really reputable news source. You really have to you have to cross-reference. Like, you can't just like see things on social media and be like, oh, that. You have to be like, okay, that's a thing I read. Where did that come from? Like, let's trace this back and see what the fuck we're talking about.
Like, I wake up and I go, I'd like to enjoy my day. So let's start off by not looking at any of the news.
Totally fair. I wish I could do that, but I have this deep compulsion to learn about things that are upsetting.
Honestly, oddly enough, I learn a lot of my news stuff on TikTok.
Oh, no, yeah, honestly, like...
But also, weirdly enough, I know a lot of news before you do, as someone who...
TikTok is really quick.
Yeah, as someone who, like... And the thing is it's... I'm really glad that a lot of people... Because there's, like, actual, like news reporters...
Yeah.
Or, like, journalists or, like, people or whatever. They go to all the, like, reputable sources and, like, read it and tell you where they got all this information from. Yeah. And I get it just scrolling through my feed of, like, dogs taking a bath.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And so I'm like, oh, wow, cool. Climate change is in the red? Bad. Fuck that.
Yeah, but, like, when hasn't it been?
Well, no, like, somebody... I didn't actually absorb it. Like I said, I don't care about the news.
Sure.
But it was like England or something. Like called the code red on like how bad climate change is getting. Like it's like actually like
oh yeah, like we're reaching like
a point of no return where it's like I've figured we're at the point of no return for a little while.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, we're really at the point of no return.
Yeah, like, this is like if we don't fix it in like soon, then like no matter what we do, we won't be able to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, thanks for that. Now let's continue on, and I want to watch a dog talk with buttons.
I do like the talking button thing. That's cute. Teaching dogs how to, like, speak.
Yeah, like
communicate.
I want to watch a lady feed Kinkajou's gummy worms.
Aw, yeah, little buddies. Yeah, way better than, like, the global economy is fucked.
Yeah. It's like, thanks for, like, giving me a 3-minute synopsis of why it's fucked, but also, I don't care. And,
well, I feel like...
Like, I do care, but I don't care.
I feel like social media is pretty quick, almost like news journalism and, like, news media. Mm-hmm. I feel like, in general, I get information at roughly the same speeds between one and the other. Like, I feel like the internet is just quick enough at this point. But TikTok is interesting in the sense that, like, I feel like a lot of what slows down access to information is, like, people's reactions to it. One of the biggest downsides to social media is that when a news article comes out or a story is breaking, the core of that story gets mired in discourse first. It's everyone talking about it,
right,
and like giving their opinions about it, and then you find out the news by having someone's secondhand opinion about someone else's secondhand opinion show up on your Twitter feed, and you're like, wait, what the fuck? And you have to like roll it back.
Yeah.
So I feel like I learn about things slower, because sometimes I'll see people like talking vaguely about things, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm on a 15-minute break.
Yeah.
And so I'll like let it scroll by, but you've already seen like a 3-minute TikTok about it.
That just ran the whole issue down.
Yeah, because it's like a lot of people just like will do breakdowns about things, whereas usually when I find my news, I have to like go through like a rabbit hunt to figure out what's going on and where it all came from and stuff like that. So,
well, that's the best thing is we've had moments where at the end of the day you'll come up to me and be like, "Oh, did you hear about this thing?" I'm like, "Yes." Don't talk to me about it.
We literally did it this morning. I think we were talking about the fucking. There was something. It was like. It was something that we had. Oh my god! It's gonna drive me nuts. I'll remember it later.
Was it the Pokemon Black and like White?
No, it wasn't the It wasn't the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl news or whatever. It was something about like. Oh, it was the Mormon Church.
About the prophet. And
yeah,
stuff.
I was talking about like, oh yeah, I guess the Mormon Church prophet. Like people are mad about the prophet. And you were like, oh yeah, because he said like wear masks and get vaccinated, and like a bunch of Mormons are.
Saying that he's not a prophet anymore, and you're like, oh yeah,
right.
That's what, yeah.
You're not the voice.
I heard about that days ago.
Oh, see, I just learned about that this morning because I saw someone's reaction to it. Because like one of the people that I follow on Twitter is like grew up in Utah or something, and so she's like, oh, she replied to like a friend, and the friend was like, oh yeah, like it's weird down here in Salt Lake City because the Mormons are all up in arms.
Yeah, no, see, I heard about that when you're still. I think it was like the first day we were pet sitting for Erica.
Oh, so shit, that was a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I feel like you generally get news a lot faster because you're on TikTok a lot more than I am. And I feel like it's much more like condensable. Like you can get people's reaction to things, or sometimes you can just get like, here's the whole story in 3 minutes.
That's just, usually like, what I do. They're usually like,
they're
like, here's this crazy thing that's happening, and I'm like, thanks, and then I just continue.
Yeah, it is so interesting the way that like our generation like absorbs news as opposed to like previous generations. Mm-hmm. Like even the whole concept I was talking about of like, oh, I'm going to be a newspaper dad or whatever. Like that's something like when you think of like the 50s, like that was like your dad came home from his like 9 to 5 job at the factory and he sat down at the table, or like he like sat down at the early morning table at like 6 in the morning and read the newspaper and drank his orange juice and ate his buttered toast. Mm-hmm. And that was like an older generation way to like consume news media, and now we have like these like digital snippets that are
newspaper in our hands.
Yeah, it's really weird. It makes me wonder how like other generations, like how are our kids gonna like absorb news?
It'll just be shot into their brain.
Yeah, microchips.
Yeah,
directly into the like back of the skull.
Something like that.
Yeah. We're just like...
be able to just project screens out of their eyes and shit.
Yeah, there you go. VR in your brain.
Yeah.
VR glasses.
Something like
They'll
that.
all have bad eyesight, so they get like really cool like Apple...
We'll just replace the eyes.
The Apple glasses. Yeah. Eyeballs are all digital now.
Yeah.
We don't need like physical eyeballs.
The eyeball.
The oh no. Oh God.
Give me money.
It's gonna happen. Oh, that's terrible.
I need to trademark that shit, and then you're gonna have to buy it off me.
You should. We should get that copyrighted right now.
Yeah.
Some guy, this is another random news story. We might be able to actually copyright that. There's weird shit you can copyright. Some guy, it was like a parody, like the whole not a parody. It was like, it was an attempt to point out how ridiculous copyright law is. Mm-hmm. But this weekend some dude like copyrighted a Magic the Gathering deck, like made his own deck of specific cards, and then put in a patent. It was like this specific combination of 60 white and black Magic the Gathering cards is my intellectual property. It's my deck. It's called Angels and Demons, and it's got angels and demons in it, and like old cards and shit. And no one else can use this deck because it's my deck because I copyrighted it.
What the fuck?
It's actually like that's not real. Like it would never hold up in court. But the whole point was like copyright law is ridiculous and absurd, and straight up, he was allowed to do it. Like he was allowed to copyright the deck. He doesn't work for Wizards. He doesn't own any rights to Magic the Gathering. He didn't make
any of those cards.
He didn't. Not all of that was stuff that someone else had made that he then compiled. But he like copyrighted the idea for his specific assortment of cards.
I see.
Yeah, and he was just like, I can do that. Like it won't hold up, but it's like this is dumb. That it's even
something
possible,
he can do.
Yeah, that he can like take a combination of like he can take a pile of Magic cards and be like, this was my original idea, and anyone who uses it has to pay me money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, longest opening tangent ever. That
was kind of what I was going to talk about a little bit, but
we're going to basically do something very akin to Roses and Thorns.
Yeah.
We each have 3 things we're going to talk about. But it doesn't have to be anything good, bad, or in between. We're just talking about 3 different topics each.
Yeah, because like I think that one of the things that I like Roses and Thorns as a format because it gives us an opportunity to kind of talk about ourselves. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like that specific format is very personal. Like I always try to think about like what is a rose, like what is something good that happened to me? Or what is something not so good that happened to me.
Right.
And sometimes I want to talk about just like my feelings about things that are happening that aren't necessarily related to or even involve me. So I figured maybe a little bit more of a loose format. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if we like it.
Okay.
So, but yeah. So would you like to start or do you want me to start? I have a really easy one to go first with.
You go first.
Something I'm excited about.
Okay.
That well, I'll get into it. It's the middle of August.
Yes.
That means autumn is here. Soon. So soon.
Yeah, almost.
It's almost fall time.
It's definitely still summer, but...
It's been so hot recently.
Uh-huh.
But it's almost fall. And I say this because at the cafe at our work.
Oh, are they bringing pumpkin spice back?
We got pumpkin spice, baby.
Oh my
we
goodness.
got it. I had my first pumpkin spice latte of the year. Neat. We got a new espresso machine at work too.
Okay.
And you can do espresso shots with less espresso and more water, which is great because I fucking hate the taste of coffee.
Okay.
So I was able to just get like a little pumpkin spice latte a couple days ago, like a little bit of espresso in there, plenty of pumpkin spice. We're here. We're almost there. It's almost the best time of the year. We can go from me being sad, miserable, and sweaty in the summer to 3 months of blissful peace. And then being sad, miserable, and cold. In the winter, yeah.
Yes, fall.
But I'm very excited about it. We've got all sorts of cool stuff this year. Like, we're doing all sorts of neat stuff at our, for fall. We've got, like, ginger snap cookies. We've got like maple scones. We've got like the apple cinnamon like syrup for toppings and stuff for drinks. It's gonna be nuts. I just want to eat my way through the entirety of this season.
See, that's the best thing about that is because I keep what is it? I really love fall. And I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, just like it's everyone else's because
it's kind of
a
high holy holiday for the two of us.
But you keep bringing it up that you're like, it's almost fall. And I'm like, it's still the middle of August. It doesn't, like, really start to be fall-like until the middle of September.
Oh, honey. Pumpkin spice is when it's fall.
That is not when it's fall.
I don't know about that.
Oh, my God.
It's fall in my heart.
I'm gonna hand you something. I'm gonna, like, find a way to get, like, a hold of pumpkin spice.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just gonna make you something pumpkin spice in the middle of, like, spring and be like, is it fall?
It'll feel like fall.
Fucking, it's not, though. That's not when fall starts. So, like...
Objectively, I understand that.
I can't remember
Regardless.
we were pet sitting for Erica, and you were like, it's almost fall. And I was like, why? Is something happening outside? And I, like, looked out to see if, like, any leaves were starting to die.
No, and it was, like, warm and gross.
It's hot. Yeah. It's humid. Mm-hmm. The leaves are in full green. Yeah. Like, there's still, like, heat lines out there.
It's almost there. We say that, and there's if you actually, I'm looking out our window right now, and there's a big orange-leaved tree right across the yard.
Oh, because it's a maple tree.
Yeah, that's
like a red maple.
Nothing's more fall than a maple tree.
A red maple that stays red all year round, except for winter when it has no leaves.
I'm just saying, it's ushering in.
Oh my goodness! It ushers nothing.
I need fall to happen. I'm so tired.
The most fall-like thing out our window is that dead flower.
Summer sucked.
It's only because
so bad. It was so hot, and I was sweaty all the time. I'm over it. I want fall now.
I know. I also want it to be fall, but it is not fall yet.
Okay.
And he keeps getting my hopes up, going, it's almost fall. And I'm like, are there signs of fall out the window? And there aren't. And I'm like, why do you do this to me?
Think about it, though. More Crypt TV this year to watch. Over the Garden Wall.
Yes, when it finally starts to get to be more fall, we are going to have so many fun fall things to do.
I know.
I'm very excited about it.
Some spooky games of Dungeons and Dragons.
We always say that. We never do any spooky games of Dungeons and Dragons.
I know, we always talk about doing one. I might try to do one.
We will be in the Underdark this year for Dungeons and Dragons.
We will probably
Unless we switch over to Ravnica by then. I don't
play a lot of Ravnica, that's true.
Because the thing is that I don't know where we'll be at all for that point. Because right now it's August. We've already been playing, as everyone knows, we switch between our two campaigns.
Yeah.
So we've already been playing the Faerun campaign, the Dawn Valkyries, for a month or something.
Oh, we've been playing for 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah, this is kind of a longer stint because you guys have a lot going on.
Because there's a lot of lines going on.
Yeah, we try to find a good place to like stop and switch over, and you guys have been like building towards something, so we haven't really had a place to stop.
But the thing is depending on when we swap over, and then whenever we get another arc done in Ravnica, and then when we come back, we'll either be in Ravnica or getting back to being in the Underdark by October.
Yeah.
But it depends on when we switch and how we switch and what's going on.
I could see us doing this like a spooky Halloween. Like, I always want to do a spooky Halloween one-shot, but I never know if we're actually going to do a spooky Halloween one-shot.
Right.
I've talked about, like, running the Tomb of Horrors and shit like that.
Is Halloween on a Friday this year? I think Halloween was on a Friday last year.
I think it was. I do believe that's correct.
And then I don't know if we actually played Halloween.
We might not have played on Halloween, but I definitely know that...
The 29th of October.
This year is Friday?
Wait. Yeah, that's the Friday.
Okay.
Because Halloween
So a little bit before.
Yeah, it's 2 days before.
Wait, Halloween's on a Sunday? That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Take that, Sunday.
Maybe I'll have the day off. It'll be nice. I get some Sundays off.
We should see if... I mean, everyone... I know that Friday's our D&D night, but we should see if, like, we could do something on Halloween.
I would love to do something on Halloween. That'd be fun. Do a one-shot. Do, like, a spooky one-shot. I could run the Tomb of Horrors for you guys. It'd be fun.
I think you, like, joked about doing that before.
I joked about doing it so many years in a row. It'd be like a meat grinder. Like, that dungeon isn't,
come with a few different characters, because they're going to die.
The thing about it is, like, it seems like such a good idea, but, like, genuinely, the Tomb of Horrors isn't really spooky. It's just kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
So if I can find, like, a really interesting and fun, like, actually spooky horror-themed one-shot, I'll do that.
I don't remember what it's actually called. It's, optional introduction to Curse of Strahd.
Oh, the Death House?
Yeah, do the Death
Yeah,
House.
see, I want to do Death House, but I intend to do Death House when we run our Curse of Strahd campaign on the podcast. So I don't want to do it with you early.
Right.
But there is some, like, adventure hooks and stuff in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft.
Yeah.
So I might just pull something out of there and then just kind of construct my own thing. I'd have to probably start working on it pretty soon, but...
Well, yeah, because it's August.
Yeah. Because it's pretty close to fall.
It's 2 months.
It's almost there. But yeah, so who knows? We got a lot of fun stuff going on this fall. I'm just excited about it. That was one of my things.
That's
it.
fair.
Just dreaming of pumpkin spice. That's all.
All right. Well, then my first one.
What's been on your mind? Let's catch up. Catch up with the day in the life of Hannah.
Well, the first thing that I have written down that it was something that's something I did, just because there's like so much I've just been like laying around the house doing not very much.
Yeah.
So the one thing I wrote down that what the fuck, my phone turned off.
What?
The thing that I wrote down that I did, was watch all of the Twilight movies.
God. Yeah, because they dropped on Netflix, like, when? A couple weeks ago?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And, God, I don't actually like Twilight, is the thing.
Sure.
Like, it's whatever, it's fine. But it's really not that great. Erica got me to watch the first 2 or 3 movies back in 2008 or whenever the fuck they all dropped.
Yeah, like early 2000 or late 2000s, early 2010s.
Right.
Ish.
But
when I was in high school.
Right. So she got me to watch the first few, and I remember them being really bad. But I never finished them, and so they all dropped on Netflix. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch all these really bad movies.
Sure. Fine.
And my God, they were bad.
Yeah. It's part of the charm of them, I feel like.
It kind of is, just being able to sit down and watch really shitty movies.
Yeah. There's something to be said for that. I genuinely enjoy shitty movies from time to time. Like, sometimes a good, like, garbage movie that you can just kind of put on in the background and just fucking not...
let run.
Yeah, like, sometimes it's nice.
But yeah, the thing was I kind of felt compelled to watch them too, just because I've never finished them too.
Yeah, fair.
So I just watched all 5 of them in one day.
Hell yeah.
God.
Yeah, you crushed those movies. I was impressed.
Well, especially because I hate movies. There's so much
do.
kissing in the movies, and I hate it!
Mm-hmm. Really awkward, like, uncomfortable, open mouth kissing, too.
I hate people's mouths.
Yeah.
And I hate watching people kiss. I hate the sounds. I hate the way it looks. And one thing in particular I think I hate the most is like when people kiss in a movie,
Uh-huh.
they always try to go for like that nasty, like really slow kiss.
Yeah.
And like you can see their bottom lips like stick together, and you can like see it like stretch and like snap back to their face.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, bleh!
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, is that like there's a lot of like
A lot of that in those movies.
a lot of kissing, a lot of like weird, awkward PDA,
like a bunch of shit that doesn't make any sense that they do in these movies.
stuff that was super spicy when we were 14.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even like it back then. Like I think that's like a main reason why
I was a little into it.
I was
a little. I liked basically anything like supernatural with like weird powers and shit. I was down for. It wasn't really my speed because I wasn't much of like a romance guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of raised on like shonen action anime.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was all big for like in the really flashy stuff. I loved like the fight scenes.
Yeah, those were fine. Well, the thing I like vampires and werewolves,
Hell
but
yeah.
also the ones that are in that movie just are not it.
Yeah.
Like it's so ridiculous and outlandish that it like barely gets me excited to be paranormal.
I like the werewolves in that movie, but only when they're wolves. You could tell that like 90% of the budget for all of those films went to the CGI wolves, and like maybe 10% went to the script writers.
Oh my god, have you seen...
Like, the scripts are awful, but the wolves are decent.
Yeah, fixing Stephanie Meyer's bullshit scripts.
Yeah, they didn't do much fixing, which is very... You can tell.
Prevalent.
Yeah.
Have you seen the behind the scenes of how they make the vampires like run fast?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god,
actually.
it's so bad.
What
they
do?
They put them on treadmills that like hold them up so they can like do the runs in place, but they also like the treadmill like drives through a path in the woods so it can like get the effect of them running really really fast.
That's fucking weird. So, like, did they just balance themselves on the treadmill and try not to fall off while it was driving and they were also running?
I'm pretty sure there's, like, a thing that, like, goes around their sides that, like, holds them up and in place.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see.
And so then there's, like, the treadmill so they can run in place.
Uh-huh.
And then below it are wheels that drive them along their path so that the camera can go along with them and like get the trees going by them really, really fast.
Sure.
Or so it seems. Because they're going. And it doesn't look so stupid.
Oh, that's... I'll have to watch that because I feel like that would look really, really funny to watch.
Yeah, it is really funny. So many people on TikTok put compilations of them together with the "she's a runner, she's a track star."
Oh my god! Oh, that's awful. I love
it's
that.
It's really stupid. I love it.
Good. What was your favorite of the Twilight movies?
Oh god!
Which one did you like the most?
I feel like my favorite one was the last one.
Sure, I actually haven't seen the last one.
I feel like my favorite was the last one only because it had the least amount of like just random making out in it.
Sure, yeah. Because they were already married, so now they don't need to kiss ever again because we know they like each other now.
Yeah, because now they're married and they have a child. It had the child in the least like weird looking stages of her life.
Yeah.
There was all the drama was gone. There was no more, like, bullshit love triangle, because that was barely a love triangle in the first place. Like, you knew she was gonna pick Edward.
Right.
So it's like, anything they tried to get you involved with Jacob being, like, a potential option for her was such bullshit.
Yeah.
It was just a waste of time.
Yeah, it was all just, like, to pad out the storyline and create conflict.
Yeah.
Where conflict wasn't really...
necessary or, like, even believable.
Right.
And I think it was just my favorite because it was the only one where Bella was actually, like, capable of doing anything. She wasn't the damsel in that movie.
Right, because
she was finally a vampire.
Right. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
It's fine.
God, it's been out since 2008. Get out of my fucking shit.
Aerith also dies in Final Fantasy VII, in case you all didn't know, so... Spoilers for a game that's 25 years old or whatever.
But it was also so like she's already a vampire, they got all that set up, and the main point of the movie was that some other vampire that you met at one point, saw their kid, the one that Bella and Edward had naturally while she was a human.
Oh, yeah.
But they thought that she was a baby human they turned at a young age.
Oh.
Which I guess is supposed to be a problem because at that point they don't age anymore, they can't learn, they can't keep, like, their vampire secrets or whatever.
Right, exactly.
So, they, like, throw tantrums and, like, kill cities and shit, and so they were like, oh, you can't do that. It's, like, one vampire rule they have. But since their child was, like, half human, half vampire, she actually grows.
Right.
And she, like, is fine. But the lady saw the little vampire baby and was like, oh, they turned a baby into a vampire, and, like, ran off to go tell the big vampire law about them.
Oh, yeah.
And so then they start calling vampires from all over the world, and it was really fun to see the vampires from all over the world.
Because they all had, like, different...
They all have these different weird abilities they can do, and, like, you get to meet a bunch of people that aren't just the main cast, and, like, they're all really varied and fun. And they go through this giant big, like war scene, and it's fun.
Sick.
It's the most fun because it's the least teenagery movie ever.
Yeah, like, it seems like it's the only one that actually kind of, like, matured with its audience a little bit. To the extent that the Twilight films were capable of doing so, yeah.
I was gonna say, it's probably just the most fun because it's got the least amount of bullshit.
Yeah.
And, like, the most straightforward, like, storyline.
I see. Okay. That's pretty... Yeah, I haven't seen that one. Maybe I'll watch it at some point, if I...
I mean, you watched all the other ones with me. You might as well watch the good one.
I did, yeah. That's pretty fair. I probably should just watch the last one eventually. What was your least favorite of them?
Oh, God. None of them are great.
Right.
But
I'm curious. I have an opinion for the ones that I saw.
The worst one... God, it's hard because I watched them all, like, straight through. So I'm kind of having a hard time differentiating which one...
Yeah, that's fair.
...was which.
Uh-huh.
Which one was the one that I finished and I just said that movie was a bunch of bullshit?
It was either the third or the fourth, I
That's what I thought.
What's the fourth one called?
I don't know, but that's the one where they get married and then...
Oh, the one where they get married? That's the fourth one.
Yeah.
That's Breaking Dawn Part 1.
Yeah.
That's my least favorite, for sure.
I don't...
The movie is awful.
I can't actually... Is that just the one where they get married and then they try to have a baby?
They get married, we have like 45 minutes of very awkward and uncomfortable honeymoon in who the fuck knows where tropical island resort, and then she gets pregnant rapidly, like in like a week.
Oh yeah, and then she like dies and then wakes up a vampire after being dead for 15
and we get
minutes.
like a gratuitous like 5-minute scene of her extremely withered and skeletal body just laying on the table.
Yeah.
And then eventually she just goes, oh, I'm a vampire now.
Yeah, I think that's my least favorite one too.
And then like we get that like really weird long scene of like Jacob walking in because he's all disheartened over Bella dying because
and then he was gonna kill the baby, and then he falls in love with the baby.
He like sees the baby and he's like, "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And it's like, that is a child. That is an actual fucking like a newborn baby child. Like what the fuck? What are you writing?
Yeah.
Like. That was the one where, like, Stephanie Meyer herself showed up in the wedding scene, and she's like...
Oh, yeah, she showed up, like, 10 different times. Yeah. She had, like, a bunch of different cameos, and I was like, get the fuck out of here, Stephanie, you stupid bitch.
It was... Oh, God, that movie was so bad. Because the thing is, like, I agree with you. I feel like some of the worst, some of the really awkward, like romance and affection scenes that occur in that movie are like some of the weirdest parts of it. Mm-hmm. And that movie is like 50% awkward romantic interaction.
Yeah.
And I just like, there are times when it's just genuinely unbearable. That's the movie that I was on my phone the most, for sure.
Yeah. Well, also because I don't want to sit there and like watch you try to conceive for 45 minutes.
Right.
Like, if I wanted to do that, I'd just watch porn or, like, try myself. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, like, what are you all doing?
Like, why am I sitting here watching you guys try to, like... Why am I sitting here watching you try not to fuck your wife to death?
It's so bad.
I don't care.
It's an awful movie.
And then, like, the other half of the movie is her almost being dead.
Yeah.
like,
or, like, being really dead, and then she drinks, like
a bunch of fake blood.
Yeah, she drinks, like, a fucking, like, styrofoam Slurpee cup full of blood, and she's like, wow, that helped, and then, like, 15 minutes later, she's, like, dying.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is...
Oh my god, she goes to try and... Somebody drops her styrofoam Slurpee cup of blood on the floor, and she goes to try and pick it up herself, and she's so withered and, like, dying that her spine snaps, and, like, she goes into labor?
Yeah, she, like, fucks her shit out. Yeah.
Whatever, I don't care. I hate those movies.
It's a disaster.
But they were very funny.
They are very funny.
And that's how I spent my Saturday.
I love it for you. It's very funny.
It was a Saturday.
Yeah, so woof. If you have Netflix, go watch the Twilight series.
If you want to, like,
if you've got 10 hours to kill.
If you got 10 hours to just, like, tear apart some movies, then yeah.
If you really need to watch a bad movie to feel better about yourself, there are 5 of them on Netflix for you right now. Go do it. Love yourself by hating yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got 2 more topics.
Okay.
Are we talking, what do we want to do next? And also, what do we want to end with? Is it fun or controversy?
Oh, God.
What are we talking about?
Go controversy. End with
Controversy
fun.
next? Okay.
Bad news, then good news.
Okay, I love that. It's not, like, that controversial, but it's definitely something that's, like, kind of been talked about in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And it's something that, like, I... like, found myself getting involved in, and I think it, like, raises some other very interesting questions.
Okay.
So, you've heard me talk about it a little bit, and it's related to, a new game that just came out. By a small, sort of queer-run, indie development studio, called Kit Fox Games. Put out a dating simulator that they had kickstarted, and then it showed up at E3. It showed up at the Wholesome Direct. It showed up at a couple of other locations, and that is Boyfriend Dungeon.
Yep. We had this conversation very loud for like an hour.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of like parts to it, and there's elements that I think are kind of silly, but essentially. The game was advertised in a lot of ways as sort of like a combination like visual novel, dating sim, but with like a goofy gimmick. And essentially the whole plot of the game is you play a character. I'm not 100% certain because again, I don't own the game. I've had to sort of learn all about this like second-handed. But you play a character. I believe you can pick your character's presentation. I don't know if you can like really do a lot of like physical feature design per se, but I know that you can choose like whether or not you're whether you are male, female, non-binary, some combination. I don't know the extent of what like presentation and like gender and sexuality options they present, but I do know that it is like more than you would expect from like a AAA studio.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is because as much as I would like it to kind of be something that's normalized, it isn't something that is with a lot of like major game studios. But luckily, like Kit Fox is a company that's run by a lot of queer people and a lot of people of color and like people who are interested in telling these more diverse stories. So that was kind of what made it appealing to people. The dungeons. It's Boyfriend Dungeon. The dungeons are based off of your feelings. They're based off of things that like are obstacles like your fears or things that you need to overcome in your own personal life. Your character specifically. It's not like a reflection on you, the person.
Right.
And the boyfriends are your weapons. You're a person who goes through dungeons and you fight monsters and like emotions and stuff, and you use a sword, but the sword you use is also a person, and so when you're out of the dungeon, the sword can turn into a boy, and then you can romance your sword, but your sword is also a boy.
Yeah.
So that's fun, and that's kind of the element that it goes for. The game presented essentially, I'll start with the controversy first and then we'll go back. A lot of controversy has come through with the game because there is sort of a major subplot, kind of like the main villain of the series, who is a character who appears relatively early on in the game and kind of like gives off a couple of red flags, but otherwise seems like a relatively nice person. And as they go on, they become more and more aggressive and more manipulative and more stalkerish, until eventually it kind of like culminates into this sort of like really intense pressuring, like sort of conflict moment where the two of you actually come to physical violence. And I believe he's the final boss of the game.
Okay.
But that's kind of like, that's the whole villain plot, is basically this person who like slowly becomes obsessive and stalkerish and manipulative of your character, and you have to kind of like fight back and stop him and overcome like some elements of that relationship. And people were upset because for a lot of people that reflected on and hit really close to home on some real life triggers, especially for people who have PTSD from like intense stalking and manipulation and like exes that are manipulative or abusive. And so that kind of came up and became a big issue for a lot of people. And slowly but surely there became kind of an outcry. A lot of people were asking them to be a little bit more clear with their content warnings. At the beginning of the game, there, from what I knew, there was a content warning about the game containing like text messages, like supportive text messages from a character that was your mom.
Yeah.
And that might be weird or uncomfortable for some people, so they let you opt out of that. But there wasn't really a lot of like contextual warning for that stalker storyline. And so people were upset that it's like, it was weird that we got to opt out of something because it was potentially uncomfortable, but something that potentially was more uncomfortable wasn't warned about or available to opt out of, because it's kind of like part of the story.
Right.
So they didn't want to like spoil it at the beginning, or at least that would be their reasoning for it. Other people were, besides just saying, I wish you had given us a content warning about it, other people were saying, I wish you like made it possible for us to just like skip that content entirely.
Opt out of that part of the game.
Yeah, which is like, I get it, but it opens a bigger discussion, I think. Because one of the things that and this is the thing that really bothered me about it, like I get where everyone's coming from and I can understand like why, especially with stalking and manipulation, like with exes and stuff like that, that can definitely be a trigger for a lot of people. A lot of people have experienced like domestic abuse, domestic emotional abuse, spousal abuse and emotional abuse. Like these things are prevalent things, and I can understand people not wanting to have to interface with it. But people were using the word consent in a way that made me feel like we want to be very careful to not just say words to make our arguments feel more sound when those words have a specific and very important meaning.
Right. Because people were playing the game and then saying that they didn't consent to its content.
Yeah, which, like, that's not how consent works. Like, it is okay to not consent to something, obviously. The whole purpose of consent is that people have the right to revoke their consent.
I say it's also okay to consent to something and then take that back and
no
longer consent to something and stop doing it.
Absolutely. But that therein lies the problem, is that I feel that people looking at the advertising for the game and looking at the way that the game was presented, they were like, oh yeah, this is like a fun light novel where you get to like do a dating sim and like go fight people in a dungeon and like, what a cute gimmick, you date your swords, that's fun. But then as soon as that plot line came into play and it started to become uncomfortable for people, it was like, well, I didn't consent to this content being in the game. You can revoke that consent, turn the game off.
Right.
Like, it became a bigger problem because, and I think part of it is because they presented the other content warning, which was, hey, you'll get these text messages from your mom, and if you have a weird relationship with your mom and that makes you uncomfortable, we'll turn the text messages off. So there, a lot of people are saying, well, why can't you just turn the second half of the game and most of the plot off? And it's like,
right.
Because at that point they're making a second game.
Right.
Like, Kit Fox is like,
or making a part of a game that has no actual substance.
Right, well that's the thing, is the easiest way to do it, probably, and this is not my, like, opinion on it, this is just what some of the game designers that I follow on Twitter who were talking about it were saying. The easiest way for them to have done something like this would just be to sort of, like, do a character palette swap for a bunch of enemies so that enemies didn't look like they had any connection to that plot line, a swap for the boss, and then just like let you go through the dungeons but without any like story content in them. You were just doing the dungeons.
Right.
That'd be the easiest way to do it. That still requires them to replace a number of models. That still requires them to cut out a large portion of the back half of the storyline and just not have the cutscenes available. And it also requires them to like put in the time and effort to separate those two instances of content and like not like have any real, like, the story would essentially fall off, and of course that's what you're signing up for if you don't want.
But then you wouldn't get a good game. You'd get
There's no reason why you're doing any of those things at that point. You're just kind of like, I'm just going to grind 4 or 5 more dungeons just to say I beat it, but like there's nothing in these dungeons. I'm just hitting the stuff.
Right.
And like a lot of the plot lines and the character interactions wouldn't be there because they're tied into that plot.
Right. Which also I feel like even if they did go through all that trouble, people wouldn't enjoy it. Like,
yeah, fair.
They'd complain about having this content in it that they couldn't opt out of.
Yeah.
But then when they did opt out of it, they'd be like, oh, well, this game sucked. Like, the last 5 dungeons had nothing, and, like, you couldn't do anything, and, like, there wasn't anything in them, and it's like...
Because what it really boiled down to is that those people wanted them to make a different end of the game that didn't have the stuff they didn't want in there. It opens a bigger question about, like, there is a limit to the things that we can do as artists and creators to make it so that art or content that is created doesn't necessarily harm people. There's a limit to what we can do because you can't predict every single thing that is going to hurt people.
Right.
You can't predict something that's going to be a trigger for someone else's PTSD or something like that.
Well, I've said it before a million times, and like maybe it makes me seem insensitive, but I'm all for content warnings.
Yeah.
I'm all for disclaimers.
Yeah.
I'm all for, like, warning to the furthest extent that you are able to of, like, what's going to be happening in your product, in your game, in your whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a point where the people making stuff are not responsible for your triggers and are not responsible for your mental well-being.
Right.
And you have to be responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
And there has to be a point where you have to read through these things, decide if they're okay for you or not, and then either continue or just don't. And don't fucking complain about it.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is if I go to war and I have PTSD for, like, explosions or, like, guns or, like, shooting, then I'm not gonna pick up a first-person shooter and play it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it ties into that whole thing, too, about, like if you're someone who went off to war and you have PTSD about, like, the sounds of explosions or things like that, I think it's fair to say there is a violation of your consent to those things if you
aren't warned.
Yeah, if you go around to your neighbors and you're like, hey, I have really bad experiences with explosion sounds, could you please not set off fireworks? And then your neighbor sets off fireworks the following day, that is a violation of your consent.
Of course. Well, even even if you don't warn people about it, and all of a sudden your town's throwing huge fucking fireworks around your
your
how are
local
you gonna
get away from it?
You can't get away from that. You can't avoid that. No one warned you that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Or didn't no one came to your house and was like, hey, we're gonna do fireworks, so maybe you shouldn't be around.
Right.
Maybe I missed the poster in the center of town because I don't fucking go there.
But the only thing you can do...
Then you should complain.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, don't fucking do that.
And the only thing that you can really do in that situation is be like, hey, can somebody warn me first? Yeah. And so that's what ended up happening, actually. Kit Fox, a couple of days ago, as of the time of this recording, they put out a statement about addressing the concerns and saying we understand that some people had concerns about this and that our content warning at the beginning of the game didn't properly reflect the type of content that you'd be seeing in the game, so we're going to update that and re-release a patch to include the updated information. And they did. There's now a warning at the beginning of the game besides the text messages that also says this game contains references to stalking, emotional manipulation, abuse, gaslighting, things like that. Game at to your comfort level, and be kind to yourself, is basically their
right.
And the thing is, that is all you can do.
That's all you can ask them to do.
Yeah, they can't just predict every single thing that's going to bother every single type of person who has their own unique experiences in the world, and you can't predict everything.
Right.
So you can't make a game that is utterly devoid of potentially triggering content.
Otherwise, you might as well just not make it.
Right.
Because part of what makes a compelling story is conflict.
Right.
And of course, any type of conflict can definitely trigger different types of people.
Of course, absolutely.
So it's if you're going to make a story that isn't going to upset or trigger or influence anybody in a negative way, don't make anything.
Right, and therein lies the problem. It's you can't just change everything. The only thing you can do is warn people what kinds of things they could expect,
so they can avoid what's going to affect them personally,
so they can make their own decisions about it.
And you can't be mad when people make things that will affect you, because those are off limits to you now. It's just how it is. It's like that's the thing, is I could see going through it's almost like how people are mad about the Pokemon Go thing, how they just made the distances shorter. So now people that have any kind of physical disabilities that make it harder for them to actually get out and get to stops and stuff. Why people are all up in arms about that. Because it it cuts a whole... There's no addenduming that. That's not something that they could opt in or out of.
Yeah. Pokestops that were a little off from the sidewalk that people who were in wheelchairs could reach by just going by on the sidewalk in their chair. Easy enough. You can reach it from there. Now, all of a sudden, it's too far away. You have to hop up on the grass. And it's what a major inconvenience for people, and at what benefit to Niantic.
But it's also not something you can opt in or out of for yourself. That's
that is a choice they made, and
you, and now you don't get to play the game, and that's just that.
Yeah. And that sucks, and that's the thing, is that
But with these kinds of things, with more mentally triggering type things, it's something they warn you about. You can opt in or out of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's if you feel that's not okay for you, then it's not okay for you, and that's that.
I think the problem boils down to, too, that people saw the game and they thought it was fun and quirky and cute, and they like dating sims.
Yeah.
So they're I want to play this game. And they get stuck into it, and then they play it, and they realize, oh, this is too intense. And then they're upset because they're I convinced myself I have to play this game, and now I just can't do it, and that's upsetting to me. And it's I get it, but if you can't do it, you can't do it. You can't put undue pressure on creators, especially small indie creators.
Right. I was going to say, the extent of which I would probably bring that is if you really, are up in arms about you cannot play it.
Yeah.
ask for your money back. Like, I don't want to do that.
No, I agree.
I don't want to do that to indie creators as much as they are, because, you know, they're small creators.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you bought a $30 game and you feel like they blindsided you despite all the warnings, and you really can't fucking take it, you're not playing it. So, like, and they're not going to fix it for you. They're a company.
Yeah.
They don't have to pander to you. But just ask for your money back and don't buy from them again. That's
It's about being like a responsible consumer of media. Mm-hmm. And like, you have to make that decision for yourself.
And that's the thing, is
there's so much they can do for you.
When you have customers of any type, there will be people that are going to just be like, well, I didn't consent to this. Well, I didn't. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. All these other different things. You'll get people that are going to be problems no matter what.
Right. That's true. Yeah. And one of the things that I think, like, bugged me the most about it, too, is, like, I was upset that it was, like, us, like, a small group of queer, non-white indie creators that were getting a ton of shit for this. And it's like, the number of times that I saw people being like, there should be like opt-in for this kind of content because it's potentially damaging to people's mental health. The number of times I saw a variation of those words from people with like a fucking Persona 5 avatar blows my mind. Like, it's like, did you play the first like 5 hours of Persona 5? Whatever's going on there is way fucking worse than what was happening. And so it's like, and that's the thing, is it like, why direct all of your ire and frustration towards them and be like, you have to change this, the onus is on you to fix this. Atlas and Sega are fine though. Yeah. Because they're AAAs, like, they don't get, or not, well, Atlas isn't a AAA, but they're bigger studios, they don't give a fuck. Right. Like, they don't care. But that's the same thing, is like, people, one of the other things that people were talking about too is like, oh, it's a dating sim, and dating sims are usually lighthearted and fun and quirky, and it's like, it sucks that there were such these heavy themes in it. It's like, did you ever play, like, Hatoful Boyfriend?
I was gonna say, there's a pigeon, I think there's a few.
There's a pigeon that literally beheads you.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different
murders
ones
and beheads you.
I'm pretty sure, like, the doctor pigeon, like,
there are people who drug you and carry you away in a sack, and they, like, fucking sell you. Yeah, like, it's
but they're small birds, so it's like, oh, it's charming.
Right.
It's like, no, it's not charming.
Yeah, but nobody complains about that. It's just like, you know, when it's like an up and coming, like, queer indie studio, all of a sudden it's like, oh, these guys should know better. And it's like, why don't we save some of our energy for the people who are, like, actively campaigning to take away our rights, instead of people who, like, made a couple of mistakes here and there in the way they presented their content, but otherwise mean well, and are trying to tell a story that resonates with real people. Like, right. Like, I feel like I could do a whole podcast about, like, how wild I feel like infighting is amongst, like, leftist communities. Right. Like, everyone's just at each other's throats for shit that, like, the vast majority of other people are doing way worse. Right. But since they're on our side, we feel like we have more power and influence over them, so we're like, oh, well, we're gonna lash out at them, because they might actually do something about it. Right. As opposed to focusing our energy on the people who are, like, really fucking us over. Right. So, yeah, it just kind of plays into that, and I feel like I'm uncomfortable with the idea that people are just kind of, like, using the word consent and using violation of consent as a term to mean something happened that I didn't like, and you have to get rid of it now because my consent was violated. Your consent was never violated. You turn the game off. You always have had the ability to revoke your consent. You just press a button. Right. And it brings you back to the Switch main menu, or it closes you out of the menu on your computer, and then you don't have to face that uncomfortable content anymore. Right. So they didn't, like, they're doing everything they can.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like it's just, I don't think people like to take those strong words and use them to feel like they're, like, being victimized in a way.
Yeah, I agree. Well, because, I mean, like, if you're trying to make a point, like, realistically speaking, if you are being victimized, doesn't your point have a little bit more merit?
It
makes you feel... If
it makes you feel like you've made your point stronger.
Right, because...
Whether that has more merit or not is yet to be seen.
Right.
At least for me.
Exactly, yeah. Is it like they're like, listen, I don't know if I have a leg to
But
stand
that gives
on
me
here,
strong
so.
Gabby Hanna's saying everyone are abusers vibes.
Well, that's really what it comes down to, yeah.
Like everyone else is a narcissistic abuser.
Yeah.
Because they don't like her and don't do what she wants them to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't like that, like, the language of, like, the language of respect and the language of, like mental health and a lot of other important, like, terms that are useful for describing key things in our lives. I don't like when they're co-opted by people who just use those terms to try to win a discussion.
Right.
It's like consent is not a game that you can play around with so that people will do what you want them to do. Consent is a very important thing that people as a whole need to be more aware of so that, like, we can create a more just and comfortable society.
Right.
I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable when people are like, I didn't like that. So I'm just going to say a bunch of, like...
I'm just going to say that they breached my consent.
Yeah, and then that gives me more validity, and it's
and
like,
of course we all know that,
that
even... I don't know what consent really means, but we all know that when consent is breached, that means it's serious.
Yeah.
So that's the word I'm going to pick to use for this.
Right, exactly. And that's just so... It's so, like, diminishing of people who have experienced, like...
actual breaches of consent.
Yeah, which is a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's why these things are so important to talk about. It just sucks when it gets co-opted by people who, like, just don't want to stop playing the video game.
Right.
Yeah, like that. I don't know. That's been on my mind.
So
for
in
a
today's
while.
news, people are being babies.
Yeah. People on the internet are just not handling things right. And I feel like a greater conversation needs to be
And I don't
had.
mean because they can't handle things. I mean because something happened that they didn't like and they're whining.
Yeah, instead of taking the steps that they can take to solve the problem.
Instead of taking mature steps to make their situation better, they are having a tantrum.
Yeah.
Is what I mean by being a baby.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. So that's that. That's that in daily drama. What you got for us, baby?
Well, my second topic was actually talking about my kidney stone and the fact that I'm trying to go back to work soon.
Ooh, that's right.
But we did talk about my kidney stone a bunch already.
Sure.
So I'm probably going to, like, claim that conversation as my first topic.
Oh, so really you started us.
So really I started.
Fancy.
And that means I only have one more topic left.
Okay. Do you want me to go next then, and then we'll save your last topic for the end, or do you want to just fire away here?
I mean, you already did 2 topics, didn't you?
I did.
We'll just keep going. I'll just do my last topic, and then your topic will be the last one.
I wonder if we have the same one, but we'll talk about that.
I don't think so.
Okay, then probably not. All right, cool. In terms of things that have been fun that we've been doing over these last couple of weeks.
Are you going? Because I was going to go.
Oh, you're going to go.
I said we'll do yours last.
Oh, shit. I did not register you say that at all.
I literally said it when you said, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
ADHD
I said, I'll do mine,
again.
and then we'll do yours last. We'll just keep going how we've been going. You just went.
Dope.
So I'll go, and then you can go.
Totally into it.
Goodness gracious.
Go for it. I just, straight up did not hear you. Like, you said words.
Straight up asked me a question and then didn't listen, getting ready to talk about it.
Because I thought you were like, we'll just keep going. And so when you said...
like, in the pattern we've been going in.
Right, so you said...
You just went, which means that if we continue in our pattern...
I took it as...
It is my turn.
You said, my second topic is this, but we just talked about that, so I'll claim that. Now we'll keep going. Yeah. Which I assume meant back to me, then back to you.
No, because you just went.
Okay, good. Well, now we're on the same page.
It just changes that I went first, instead of I'm going again after you.
Did you actually say that I should go last, or did you just say we'll keep going?
No, okay. I said both of those things.
Okay. I did not. It did not hit my brain at all.
Oh my goodness.
Fucking ADHD. It's so powerful.
Anyway.
How does it have control over me?
my last topic was that I've been, for the last fucking half a month or so, thinking of making another D&D questionnaire.
Oh, shit!
I've
only heard you vaguely talk about this.
Because I only said that sentence once, other than this now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've set it up. I was thinking of doing it for either our group topic, which I don't know when the fuck that happens.
That's soon enough. I think we've got like a couple more episodes before that comes up.
I don't know. I think it's supposed to be my episode and then a group episode.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that's a couple episodes, yeah.
That's one episode before the group episode. It's only one.
Yeah, it's a couple. That's two. This one and the next one. Yeah.
But, so we're either going to try and do it for the group episode, or I'm going to try and do it for my episode. Maybe not next, because depending on when I can get it made out and filled and shit.
Because it's a whole thing.
But I was thinking that this is probably going to be the first quiz that I put out that I'm not going to include the Worm Tamers on.
Really?
Yeah.
Curious.
Just because I love the Worm Tamers so much.
Oh, yeah.
But also, we haven't played their game in 2 years.
Yeah. That's true.
Like, I feel like I should be... And also because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
That a lot of the podcast is, like... And the questionnaire itself is, like zoned in onto them.
Sure.
And so it's like, even though we're mainly doing the Dawn Valkyries and Ravnica, like, a lot of space and a lot of time and a lot of discussion is still done about them. And while that's not a bad thing, I feel like it gives the current campaigns we're in a lot less time to, like, have questions asked or, like, time spent on them.
Yeah. So, I feel like it is a pretty 50-50 split. Mm-hmm. But in terms of, like, because there's so many Worm Tamers, I feel like when we do the questionnaires, half of the time is spent on Worm Tamers, and the other half is split between the other two parties.
Right.
So I do feel like they get a lot less time in the spot. Like, you've tried to, like, maneuver that to give a little bit more space to them, but we're still dealing with a couple of characters per person.
Right.
When it comes to Worm Tamers. So it's just that they get a lot more. Yeah.
Because there's just more to write about each of the characters.
It's very interesting.
So I think I'm going to do I think I'm doing a 16 questionnaire, a 16 question questionnaire.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to split it 8 and 8.
I dig it.
And I'm going to have 8 Dawn Valkyrie questions, 8 Ravnica questions. And we'll just, once I get this finished, whether it be my next topic or the group topic or my next topic after the group topic, I'm probably going to have another questionnaire ready for the podcast.
I'm actually so excited for that because I genuinely do love those questionnaires.
I do too.
They're a lot of fun to do. They're a lot of fun to read. I know that, like, only a smaller percentage of our, like, listening audience kind of, like, digs into our D&D content. Mm-hmm. But I know that enough people do.
Right.
And I know that it's a lot of, like, some people just like listening to us, like, talk about character design and, like, how we, like...
Some of the exploits that come up because of the question.
Yeah, and, like, how we play our characters and who our characters are. So, like, I always find that they're fun. They're fun for, like, us. Like, it's fun to record. And I hope that our audience, like, enjoys listening to them, too.
Right.
But
well, it's always
it
nice.
seems like they do. They get, like... Compared to all of our other stuff, they get decent views. So.
Well, I was going to say, it's always nice to have people enjoy our content, but also having the questionnaires on record and recording with what we're doing, it's always a good time.
Well, that's what it really is. Like, it's more about, like, it's nice for us to have a recording of our, like, opinions and discussions about this because it's something that we can refer to.
Right.
Like, what a useful tool for me as the DM to, like, go back and be like, oh, yeah, I remember on this podcast episode when we talked about all of your characters' greatest fears.
Yeah.
I can use that.
Well, I also have it all in writing, so it's
like,
could you bring that questionnaire back up for me?
Could you bring that questionnaire back up? And could you tell me what their deepest, darkest secret is?
What their deepest fears are.
Yeah. What would make them cry the hardest? I need that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty short topic, but I'm working on making that. If anyone has questions for maybe questionnaires in the future.
Hell yeah. Oh no, I'm very excited about that. That's super fun. Yeah. All right. We'll look forward to that. I'm so ready for that to happen. So, last topic then, I guess.
Yeah.
Now that I've got this all organized. So this one's a little bit more lighthearted. And I think it's probably a good one to end it on. It's something that I actually have decided at some point I would like to do a whole topic on.
Yeah.
Like the concept of it, but what we're doing is like a variation on it.
Okay.
So I have always been into, since like the early 2010s, if not a little bit earlier than that, I have always been into like alternative runs of the Pokemon series. Nuzlocke as a prime example, and for those of you who don't know what a Nuzlocke run of a Pokemon game is, I totally invite you to go look it up. If you're a fan of the Pokemon series and you've never heard of this before, it's super interesting. It's a neat way to add a little bit more challenge to the game. People do a ton of different variations on them, and we have recently been doing a variation of our own.
Yeah.
Which we've been having a lot of fun with, actually. I want to talk a little bit about it. So we decided to pick up Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield again. I'm playing Shield, Hannah's playing Sword. And we decided, I was originally going to do, I had an original idea to replay through the game doing something what I called a Wormlock.
Which I think you should still do.
Then I'd have to play Shield 3 times. That's a lot. I might do it, but I feel like it's
because this wasn't a proper Nuzlocke.
It wasn't a proper Nuzlocke, for sure. But, like, I put it on the back burner, I think.
Right.
I think the
do it after a little other...
comes last, yeah. After I've, like, Nuzlocked everything else I want to Nuzlocke.
Right.
Essentially, what we decided to do... I was originally going to do a Wormlock, which was a Nuzlocke, but instead of catching specific Pokemon, I would assign one particular Pokemon to every single one of the members of the Worm Tamers, our first, like, major Dungeons and Dragons party. And each of the... Because there's, like, a decent number. There's, like, 16 of them, which is enough to balance out, like, a whole game's worth of a party.
Yeah.
And so the rule was essentially going to be the same as a Nuzlocke, but once I encountered that member of the team for the first time, I would put them on the team. I would catch the first one that I saw. That fit the classifications. Like, if it was, like, a Pokemon that represented, like, Lundquist, for example, I would have to find, like, a male version of that, because I would name him after Lundquist, and it would be like Lundquist. So I have to find the right version. But, once I did, that was it. They were on my team. And then, same Nuzlocke rules. Once they fainted, they were dead, like it was in a D&D campaign.
Right.
And so I wouldn't... And, like, there were, like, other rules, like, each of them based on the classes that they were based off of. I would give each Pokemon, like, a special power, and they could do certain things, like, oh, you'd get special items, or, like, I'm allowed to use certain items on you, but otherwise there were, like, item limits and things like that.
Right.
I had a whole bunch of rules I was going to do, and I hadn't quite set it up yet. But then Hannah got a new idea, which mostly was just based around, like, she was drawing pictures of two of our Ravnica characters, and then she was like, what would their Pokemon team be? And then we kind of came up with what Pokemon would be on...
We spent an entire night going through
at least
the perfect teams.
For Alistair, her druid from Ravnica, and Angelo, my Rakdos bard.
Which I have pictures of. I have their Pokemon teams. The ones we came up with. And then we were like, what if we, like, replayed Sword and Shield, but, like, made our characters them, and then, like, got their teams and played through the whole game with their team.
Yeah, like literally we got our starters from the game, which neither of the starters were on our team. And then we just kind of played up to the point that you could trade, and up to the point that you, like, got the things you needed to, like, have a functional game, which was pretty much right before you go to the wild area.
Right.
And then we just traded all of the eggs over for all the members of our team, and then hatched them, and then got them to, like, level 8. And then we just went.
Yeah.
And that was it. We just had a whole team of, like, fresh, like, baby Pokemon that were all, like, the first evolutions of our final team, and we've just kind of been playing through the entirety of the game with a set specific team. I loved the idea
Uh-huh.
of being able to like kind of play as our characters and what our characters would do and like interacting with the game from our characters' mindset. That's been a lot of fun. I didn't think it was really going to be that exciting.
Yeah.
To me. And when we first started it, I was like, this seems like it'll be a fun idea, and I'm more excited about the idea of being able to play it through with you together.
Right.
Than I was about the specific, like, the game composition, because I was like, it's just going to be like, I'm going to have one team, and I'm just going to play the whole team, and they're going to get boring. But, like, I've been pleasantly surprised by how, like, unique the challenge has been.
Right.
Because we set the teams, we're not thinking about, like, balance or anything like that, or,
Right.
like, having a good assortment of different team members. We were just...
Or what's good against different gyms, or
Yeah.
what's good against each other, because we've also been playing as rivals for each other.
Yeah, we battle each other.
And we battle each other every 2 gyms.
Yeah. Like, once, like, our team is, like... Because about 2 gyms in Sword and Shield, there's, like, a meaningful amount of additional levels and new moves and potential evolutions and stuff, so we've been giving each other, like, enough space between things that we can, like, challenge each other with vaguely fresh
Right.
variations.
Right now we're 2-2 for the wins, aren't we?
We've had 3 battles. Did we have our 4th battle after?
No, I think we did, yeah.
Oh, so we're, yeah. Then
I won 2, and then you won 2.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Because you won the first 2, and then I won the next 2. Yes, that's true.
Like, literally that. I won 2, you won 2. And now I don't know if we're ready for our next fight.
Oh no, we would have to be, yeah, because we did one battle before we even left. We just did our starting team.
Yeah.
So that was the 2. Now we have to do our after the 8th gym battle, and then that will make us 3-2 in one favor or another.
Right.
And then we'll have to do one before we go to the Elite Four, and then after we beat the game.
Yep.
But the after we beat the game one is only going to matter if we're 3-3.
Right.
Because if one of us wins the next 2 matches in a row,
It doesn't matter.
then it's done. Yeah. Well, we can do it for fun.
Yeah, we can still fight because it'd be fun, but it wouldn't actually be like a tense fight.
Yeah.
We'd just...
But those fights have been like that, and that's the thing, is that like I found that in general, like there are some elements of my team that are missing that made certain gyms a lot harder this time around.
Yeah.
The fire gym was brutal for me because I have like
Two fire types
two
on
fire
there.
types. I also have 2 dark types, and he has the Gigantamax Centiscorch.
Right.
Bug's good against dark. So he's good against, like... oh, yeah, and then the one that... is
I was trying to check the time, and I was on TikTok. Sorry, keep going.
That's okay. I feel like your TikTok bleeds through into our recording.
It really
once an
does,
episode,
doesn't
yeah.
it?
But yeah, no, that one was rough because, like, I had 2 dark types that were weak to his Centiscorch. 2 fire types with mostly fire moves or moves that weren't very good against Centiscorch, and a Gloom.
I think dogs should vote.
Griffin McElroy is our guest on the podcast today.
Yeah, talking about dog votes.
That's your, is that your, like, alert message? Is that what it is? Or is it
Yeah,
like...
I got a tweet from you that just went through to my phone.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
Oh.
Jeez, okay. Just now. But, yeah, no, that one was rough. And, like, especially, like, not only do neither of us have a water-type Pokemon on our team,
Right.
neither of us have a Pokemon that is capable of learning a water-type move.
Right.
We have none. And, like, some moves that, like, I think are meh have been really, really useful this run just because, like, it's the only option I have. I have fucking no ground moves. So I taught Zoroark Dig.
Yeah.
It's been so good.
Yeah, that's been very
Like,
useful.
there's so much stuff in that game that's weak to ground and, like, not a whole lot else. So just, like, being able to, like, bring in Zoroark, but, like, disguised as Vileplume. So that the AI is like, ooh, a grass type. Better not use my more powerful electric moves. Better try something stupid against it. And then Vileplume just digs underground, and the computer's like, what?
Right.
Yeah, like, it's really neat to be able to kind of, like, play around with what things your Pokemon are capable of learning and, like, having to play with the weaknesses and strengths. What have you, like, what are some observations you found about your team? Like, what's some stuff that surprised you about this run through?
See, the thing is...
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Really?
Because this is how I normally play.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like, you have, like, a team, and you're like, this is my team.
I picked the Pokemon I like. The thing is the only thing that's really been odd about it is that I picked for Alistair. I didn't pick the Pokemon I wanted to play with.
Right.
I picked the Pokemon I thought he would have.
Right.
So really, other than just the Pokemon picks...
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. I just pick a team that I want. I get the team as fast as I possibly can. I go through all of the gyms with the same team. I level the fuck out of them as fast as I possibly can, so I can just fucking gut punch every single gym trainer into the fucking dirt.
Yeah.
And then I win the game in the end, and that's fun for me. That's what I do.
Shit.
I'm literally doing the same thing.
See, I'm super indecisive when it comes to Pokemon games, and I want to use absolutely fucking everything. So, like, I'll regularly not settle on a final team until I'm about to challenge the Elite Four. Like, once I have the Elite Four, then it's like, all right, so this is my team. Like, these are the ones I'm going into. But I'll be training, like, 9 or 10 guys at once. Like, just to be, like, and I'll keep swapping them out. I'll be like, ooh, like, half my team hit level, like, 57. And so I'm going to take all my 57s out, and I'm going to take all the 54s that are in my box, and I'm going to train all the 54s up to 57, and then I'll keep swiping them around. And I did that for, like, there was a point in time in, like, it's easier in some generations and harder in others. In Kanto, now I've used so many of the original 151 that when I play fucking Fire Red or Leaf Green, I pretty much have, like, yeah, this is my team. Like, I pick Pokemon, I use them for a little while. If I vibe with them, they stay on the team, and that's pretty much that. By, like, the 3rd gym, or by, like, the 5th gym, usually, by Sabrina's gym, I have a pretty good idea what my whole team is going to be. Sword and Shield, way too many Pokemon in that game. There was a point in time, I think around the 6th gym, my first run through, that I had a team that was just one box. Like, I had 30 Pokemon.
Jesus Christ.
That I was like, all of these could be final candidates for my team, and I was just cycling through them.
No, I knew who I was going to have the moment I saw the Pokemon. The thing is I'm very picky.
I'm like,
and I'm very decisive.
I'm extremely not.
I look at the list of Pokemon that are in the game. I pick the ones that I want, probably even before the fucking game comes out.
Yeah, if you can, yeah. If the sprites leak, we know which ones we got.
I get them and I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm not wasting my time on Pokemon I don't give a fuck about.
Like in the first run through, we saw the fucking sprites leak on the internet before the game came out, and you saw Toxtricity and you were in love.
Yeah, I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
We
didn't even know if it was going to be good.
No, I didn't.
It really was.
Because I never fucking care.
Right, of course.
If you put enough love and care into any Pokemon, they can be good.
Yes.
And
I agree with that.
That's all I do. I'm like, I don't care if people are like, oh, the Pokemon sucks. I'm like, guess what? You suck. You're just afraid that you have to actually put effort and love into something.
Yeah, you have to, like, try. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that there are a lot of Pokemon that, like you can do things to make them genuinely fun and interesting and, like, good. Except for Dunsparce. Dunsparce is bad.
Except for Dunsparce. But the thing is, I think, honestly, the thing about this run through, if I was going to make any observation whatsoever about how I play versus how I had Alistair play, is that his team is more balanced.
Really?
My original run through of Pokemon Sword, I had 3 electric types on my team.
You did have 3 electric types on your team. 2 of them were the same Pokemon.
2 of them were the same Pokemon, just different versions.
Yeah, you had low key and
high
amped Toxtricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Boltund. And I don't know if that was my only. I don't know if those were my only ones, but like, if I could have had 6 Toxtricities and like got away with it, I would have.
Right.
But like, at least Alistair doesn't have like 3 or 4 different Pokemon repeating.
That's true. He does have some pretty good variation. You do have a couple of like type repeats.
Yeah, but
between
also,
like
what?
Alolan Ninetales and Sylveon, but like that's.
But also,
whatever.
It's an Ice Fairy versus just a Fairy.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, that's the thing is like all of your
Still
duplicates
different.
have 2 types.
Yeah.
Like I have like a dark type and then what's my other dark type? I have a dark type and a dark
Ghost?
that one's Ghost Fire.
Fire Ghost?
I have a fire type and a Ghost Fire type.
Yeah.
And I have a dark type and how am I missing this? I had Toxtricity, I have Ninetales, I have Chandelure, I have Zoroark, I have Vileplume, Grass Poison. Who's my last Pokemon? What?
I don't know.
Oh my god, who is my... It's a dark type. It's got to be a dark type.
Impidimp?
Yeah, I have... Dark Fairy. I have Grimmsnarl now. Yeah. Named for Lord Rakdos himself to fit the Ravnica flair. But yeah, no, like that's the thing is that like I'm in the same boat. Like I have a bunch of duplicate types, but like one of my duplicates always has a second like main type. Like I have a dark type and then a dark type with a buttload of fairy moves. Yeah. Who I use against all the dragons and shit. Yeah. Like, yeah, and it's been interesting. Like there have been gym leaders that were easy and I didn't think about in my first run through the game that were challenging for me this time because my team was very different. I will say the optional, or like not the optional, the varied gym leaders. Like I have the ghost type one and the the ice type one. They were wicked hard for me in my first playthrough. They were so fucking easy in this playthrough. Yeah. Having 2 dark types against the ghost leader, trivial. Having 2 fire types against the ice type made it trivial. Even Lapras, which I was worried about Lapras, but Toxtricity is a monster. Yeah. So I just fucking max lightninged it and it went to sleep. Like,
that's also great. Something funny that that came up while we were playing the game is that you were going to go do your gym and I was like, oh, finally I actually get to see these gyms and what they look like. Oh yeah,
because I was playing it when we weren't living together.
Yeah, and you're like, what do you mean you get to see them? We see them when I played it through it the first time, and I was like, no, we didn't live together when we did it the first time.
I forgot that game came out in November and that I was playing, because I'm like, no, we played it when we lived together, but we didn't. I didn't move in until March.
No, we played over the phone. Like, you'd call me on Facebook, and I would play, we'd like do raids together over the phone.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember that. Jeez. Wow, it doesn't seem like that was that long ago, but it kind of was. It was time. It was time to do a rerun of this game. Yeah. We've been away from it for long enough. I am curious. I will have to... There's a whole nother saga involving my Switch, which I have a new...
Oh my goodness.
I have a new Switch now.
Yeah, brand new Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, brand new Switch. We were trying to get this game to actually do this and like set up our teams, but my Switch's game cartridge reader didn't work. It wouldn't read the game cards. Mm-hmm. So I had Hannah's brother fix it for me, which... He did try to do. He had never done it before, but he's done other repairs on consoles before. Yeah. Unfortunately, he ended up bricking the console.
Oh my god! I fucking came downstairs from getting a sandwich.
Yeah, you literally went upstairs to go get a sandwich.
And I came down, and Brandon was in the room with Ken, and he was like, "Okay, so we have good news and we have bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" And I'm like, "Doug, give me the bad news first." And they're like, okay, so we bricked the Switch. Yep. And I was like, what?
Yep.
I was like, how the fuck do you come back from I bricked your Switch? And he's like, Brandon's like, I already bought him a new one, so... Yeah,
and that was the thing, too, is that, like I don't hold any hard feelings towards him doing that, because he, just purchased a new one for me, no questions asked.
He also got you the one with better memory.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't ask him to do that. But he did, and so it's like, he was like, yeah, I feel really bad, and I'm like, dude, what more can you possibly do to fix
to rectify the situation?
It's fixed, you're good. But so that happened, and then we tried transferring all the stuff over so we could get the game started, but it turns out that fucking Pokemon Sword and Shield are some of the only games on the Switch that don't use cloud saves, mm-hmm. So my old save file is on the old Switch, and I can't get it. Brandon did eventually get the other Switch, functional in the dock, kind of.
It'll stay on.
It'll stay on, yeah. So, we at some point have to transfer it over, but now that I've started this new file, we don't know if transferring over the file, which thing it will overwrite. We're pretty sure if I just bring my old profile over, it'll go onto that profile, but we haven't tested it yet. So everything is kind of, up in the air. this is a long-winded way of saying, once I get my old file back, I'll have access to all the DLC, which means I am really curious to see how Alistair and Angelo's teams do in, like, the Isle of Armor.
Right.
Or, like, in
And I want to
Crown
do
Tundra.
that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get to that point.
Yeah, me too. I'm
Where
really
we're
excited
doing,
about
like,
it.
the big monster fights together, and... Because I want to do, like, the big legendary fights and stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those ones are weird, though, because they're all rental Pokemon, so it's just going to be us. Like, it's
Well, I know, but it'll still be fun to do.
Yeah, it'll be Alistair and Angelo. Exactly. It'll be fun.
You can also shiny hunt when we go through Exile.
Well, yeah, this is a good one to shiny hunt in. We might. It was like, why would we catch legendaries if they aren't shiny? Like, just let them go. We'll do it again. Yeah, totally fine. Let's just get nothing but shiny legendaries.
So we have to just pray that when you
Transfer it over, it doesn't
just
wipe
erase
Angelo's
Angelo off the face of
file.
the earth.
I would lose it.
knowing Angelo's fucking luck.
The man has whatever the opposite of the lucky feat is in D&D.
Unlucky.
Yeah, he just had, like, every time he rolls good, instead it's bad, and no one can really explain why. It's just bad.
That boy was born with every bone in his body just unlucky.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It permeates his soul, really. But when it comes to Pokemon, he's not half bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably should have been born in the Pokemon world and not in Ravnica. Might have been a little better off for him.
Poor thing.
Yeah,
My
what a tough time.
goodness.
But yeah, so that's that. I'm really excited to see where it goes and expect more updates on it. I do want to do an episode at some point in the future about like variable Pokemon runs and like popular Pokemon ROM hacks and stuff, because I want to talk a little bit about those and like a lot of like Pokemon Nuzlocke and like alternative Pokemon games are really, really fun, and they've been on my radar for a while, so I kind of like want to draw more attention to them if we can and kind of start playing some. There are some games that I'm really, really interested in picking up. There's been a lot of buzz about Pokemon Xenoverse recently, which is exciting. I have my own like concerns with that game, but it's been kind of big. So
Well, that's something we'll go over when we actually do an episode.
but I also want to do Nuzlocke as well. I might. I've started and have kind of put on hiatus, but I'm in the process of a Pokemon Leaf Green Nuzlocke right now. So maybe next time when we talk about that, I'll talk about like what happened in my Nuzlocke. Spoiler alert: not a whole fucking lot yet, but when we get to that point, I can talk a little about like what that entails and like what other versions of the game we're gonna do and kind of like go through that. But for now, I'm really excited about this. Like, don't knock. Basically, like, it comes down to, like, if you're a Pokemon fan and you're looking for something fun to do, don't knock a themed run. It doesn't have to be your own character like we did. Like, if you want to make, like, if you want to make a team that's, like, I'm playing through Sword and Shield and I'm using a team that's based entirely off of Avatar Aang.
Right.
You could do that. Like, there's ways to totally make that work.
And they're fun.
Yeah, they've been a lot of fun. They've been an interesting challenge. They've made things that weren't so difficult more difficult this time around, and things that were hard for me in the first run easy. So it's interesting to see how the game changes when you approach it from a different angle.
Yeah.
So that's basically been our last 5 weeks or so since we've uploaded. A lot of interesting stuff been happening, so we're glad that you're here with us for it. Stay tuned for more fun stuff in the future. We're going to get back to trying to regularly post now that our life has somewhat normalized itself.
Yeah,
a bit.
hopefully we'll get back to the regular groove now that things are starting to level, and I'm probably going to talk to my doctor about getting stuff to dissolve my stone with, so that should be a fun conversation.
So we can just get it over with.
Just yeet that thing out of me and get on with my life.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. Before we go, as is tradition, we have a recommendation to make. It's on me this time, and I thought of one like just before we started.
Okay.
I think it's a good one. We've been talking a little bit throughout this episode about things that are on Netflix, and especially like there's been a resurgence of stuff from our childhood that has been showing up on Netflix. It kind of like, I feel like it really started over the pandemic with like Avatar and the Legend of Korra coming to Netflix, and like it's kind of building from there. to things like Twilight, which are nostalgia for a different reason. So what I would like to recommend, and what Hannah and I have been doing for the last day and a half or so,
God, yeah,
is if any of you are familiar with the Total Drama series,
yeah, the one on the
which
TV
is
right
literally on the TV behind us right now while Netflix is idling. Total Drama Island. I think most of the seasons of Total Drama.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got most of them.
Are up there on Netflix now. For those of you who don't know anything about it, it is a Canadian animated series that was... I forget the name of the company that did it. Does it say on there? I can literally look at it right there.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it doesn't. But yeah, so it's a Canadian animation as opposed to a U.S. one. They have all the seasons on there. Shit,
there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Total Drama Island, Total Drama Action, World Tour, and then some of the shorter seasons, and then the spin-off, The Redonkulous Race.
Yeah.
They are a animated series that is kind of like a teenage parody of Survivor and The Amazing Race, like some of those like reality game shows that they've played. It takes some interesting twists and turns, and I remember watching it and laughing my ass off when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. It was funny. I started watching it when Ken went to work yesterday.
Yeah.
And I started watching it. I was like, I'll just watch original Total Drama Island, just because I watched it when I was younger. So I'll just I don't really remember what happened.
Right.
I'll just watch it, and then I'll turn it off before Ken comes home, and then I fell asleep watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's embarrassing. He's just letting it play because I turned it on, and he's probably sitting there fucking laughing at me because I'm watching Total Drama Island. And then he's like, oh, I remember this stuff then when this happened and this happened. I was like, you watched Total Drama Island?
Fuck yeah. I love the show. As someone who grew up in every week, my mom was like, it's Survivor time. Everybody shut the fuck up. We're watching Survivor. It's a big part of her life. It's this was my Survivor. This was my Amazing Race. It was just fun, goofy, absurd shenanigans happening, and the kind of blasé attitude that they have, and the jokes they make about the reality game show industry as a whole, mm-hmm. by all of the characters being aggressively shitty and disrespectful of safety.
Oh my god.
Which is really fun. Yeah, it's a fun show. It's very overdramatic. It's very comical. So I totally recommend checking it out if you haven't.
It's got all the teen camp cliches in the first one.
For sure, yeah. All of the who's making out with who, and who's who's falling in love with who, but then there was this other person. It's but I love you. And
it's much better than Twilight, though.
It's so much better than Twilight in every way. I remember seeing Total Drama Island and Total Drama Action on TV. I saw a little bit of World Tour, and then the other ones I've never seen before. Yeah. But they do have everything that they've put out for this series. So if you remember some of it but never got to finish the whole thing, or if it's something that's totally new to you, check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's something to have on in the background while you do other stuff. It's just a cute little game. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, we love you very much, and we'll catch you next week with whatever fun things Hannah has in store for us.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.